Hey guys, Big Wheel Dog 82 in the soil. Today I'm going to go ahead and go through the continuation of my strawberry propagation video. Now, in the beginning I didn't really plan on doing a whole lot of them. I'd really only intended to do maybe, I don't know, 10, 12 plants. That number has now ballooned to almost 30 plants. I didn't take them all at one time. They're sort of kind of just, as the runners come along, and I want to propagate some for various reasons. And there's been some good, there's been some bad, and then there's been some surprises. And the entire operation nearly got derailed by a certain issue, but we've got that handled in the bud, and it only took one time. I also wanted to show you guys the different stages that these plants being inside are taking in their various points, as well as just some interesting things that I found along the way. So why don't you guys follow along and I'll show you what's going on and why I like this process. Now initially everything went pretty much according to how I showed you in the video, where I had the strawberry runners all rooted out, and then I proceeded to take them upstairs, and they were already potted into my DIY soil blend, and it was pretty much straightforward for a while. Along the way I went ahead and I cut some more of the runners off for different ones, because there was one variety that was giving me more trouble than the others, which was my AC Windies, which is a June bearer, and it was just really bugging me why I could figure out how to get the other varieties to grow and stay alive and look healthy, but I couldn't get those. So I try again. Finally I figured everything out. Then here comes the hiccup. So we had, I don't know, probably at this point maybe 20 plants that were all nice and green, and then all of a sudden I noticed that there's these little bitty spider webs, and I'm like, I've looked in here, there's no spiders, I don't know where they're coming from, but it didn't really seem to change much. And what had happened was they were spider mites, and the plants that had been coming along so effortlessly and so vigorously at first started puttering out on me, and I knew I had a problem. Somewhere along the way, in, I don't know, the last 2-3 years, I can't remember when, but I had this thought that a lot of people, when they want to treat for pests in the garden and want to do it organically, they're either saying neem oil or insecticidal soap, or there's a host of different things depending on what it is. So I decided to just mix up a combination of both the insecticidal soap with the neem oil, because you need some type of a soap to get the neem oil to disperse into the water and not just basically be like oil and water or vinaigrette. So that's what I did, and lo and behold, I hit every last one of those plants. I didn't care if I saw any of the little webs or anything like that. I hit them all. And probably here within a couple of days, well, initially at first it destroyed all the webs from the spider mites, but then it just seemed like they were just gone. And it's been like 2 weeks now, and no, there's no mites. I was worried about eggs, which is what the neem oil was supposed to do, was to suffocate the eggs, and then the insecticidal soap in it kills the mites that are alive and active. So it accomplished both of those things with one application, and I am so happy about that. But the problem is, they had done so much damage that the leaves died. Any of the ones that were starting to turn colors and purple and whatever, which some of them did, and I'll explain to you here in just a second, but they were just turning purple, they get crispy, they died, and I thought I had lost at least half my plants. So what I did was cut them back. I cut back all the dead leaves. I cut off anything that had any kind of remnants of the webbing from the spider mites and everything. And it took a while. I was sure I was going to get them, but then let me show you what I found. So here is a plant that is one of my most recent and probably the last batch of runners that I'm collecting to root out. And the main issue that I see with this specific variety is even when it takes a while, but I always get the discolorations you can see here, and it's only on the the first leaves that were on the plant when I took the cutting. So I don't know whether or not it's the fact that I have some very diluted nutrients in it, or if it's more because it's trying to do two things at once and it's not doing a whole lot good, which is grow roots and grow the plant. I don't know, but that's not the important part. The important part is despite this, it's happy now that the roots have taken hold, and now that they have, it's doing just fine. So yeah, here soon these will be cut off. I'll keep this one as long as possible, but these two for sure are goners. But they just take some time. And the other thing that I noticed as well, which you wouldn't notice this if you have your plants outside and just doing it next to each other, there's a lot of root development that happens, and it looks like the plant's just not doing anything at all. And in reality, it is doing, you just can't see it. Which brings me to my next point. Here is one of the plants that was the worst ones that got bit by the spider mite issue. So once I cut off all the dead leaves, I thought it was a goner, because all I really had left was a leaf that looked like this. And eventually these started bouncing back. Now this variety in particular, it's called the Mar du Bois. It, at least for me, in my growing of it since the spring, and also it's showing the same tendencies inside, is that it grows slower initially than a lot of the other varieties. It doesn't take off as quick. It seems to not really want to do a whole lot, but once it decides to go, it goes. And here, I'll go ahead and put in some clips to show you exactly the kind of growth eventually they do. But it's nuts. They also throw off a lot of runners. This is by far the one that I've had to prune or harvest runners off of the most out of all my other plants. But you see, it doesn't take a whole lot, and it was one application, and everything looks nice, healthy, and green, and I can't complain. But they're all bouncing back. Now you can see this, I think, had a little bit of damage from the spider mite still. This is the leaf that was left, so you can sort of kind of see a little browning on the edges still, but it's nice and it's healthy, and it's a way better spot than it was when I initially treated and clipped off all the bad leaves. So I don't know about many of you, but me, I'm a curious person. Two, I'm pretty meticulous about things when it really starts bugging me, or I really need to understand the process of going on. It doesn't really matter if it's plants or why something's not working or anything that's kind of like that. But with the process of growing them indoors and in pots and containers is when I'm sort of kind of curious about why something's taking so long to show signs that it's growing. On the inside, you can inspect these roots. On the outside, you can't really do that, because if you do that, you're setting the plant back. So for me, all it took was for me to pop it out, and I'm not sure if you can see all that, but it's stacked with roots. And this is a very, very, very healthy root ball. So I know that when I'm ready to put this out, it should have no problems. Now, the other thing is, I don't want these to get so root bound where the roots are so tight and balled up that water can't penetrate, there's hardly any soil in there, it's not able to hold on to any moisture. So by being able to take it out, take a good solid look at it, I know whether or not I need to step up and pot these things up. So, oh, the last thing too is I'm able to see how compacted, how, you know, make sure there's no bugs I'm seeing in there, no unintended mold or mildew or anything like that. It all looks nice and healthy. I can even see some mycorrhizal on there. So it's, for me personally, that's the benefit of being able to. Now, those of you who are smart enough to sit there and say, you know what, I can do that without having to pull the root ball out of the container, because you're smart enough to use clear cups. I get that. My thing is, to get clear cups, I'd have to buy those cups. Why do that when I have a whole collection of reused, picked up pots from local nurseries, or I've got these ones that I've had for a while now? Why buy clear ones when I've got these? It's just money I don't need to spend, and it's not really all that much to be able to take it out, take a look, drop it back down. Plus the fact that these are almost on the verge of needing more water, so they're kind of dry, makes it easy, you know, that much easier to pop them up out of the container and just have a look. Just because I'm doing all these on the inside does not mean that I'm not still propagating plants on the outside, because there are some plants that I showed in my early, well, I think it was early summer video of the last bunch of bare roots that I got that were just late and they didn't look all that good. Let me show you how that's working. So here is my GreenStalk, and the variety that I planted very last was called Seascape. Now when I got it, it was, like I said, in the beginning of summer, so it was like the very last runners that places were selling and whatnot, and they looked really, really rough. And when I planted them, I planted all of them into this top tier here, and they all failed. Oh, by the way, you see my friendly little neighborhood, where is he at? There he is, the neighborhood praying mantis. I love it. Love seeing that, the wildlife taking advantage of what I've got going on. But anyways, so the ones that I initially planted, if you can see right here, yeah, dead. And then this plant, and there's another plant on the other side that was not there. All those plants came from this one plant. And if I didn't know any better, I would say that, oh, Will, you planted like 3 freaking crowns in there. No, I did not. It was a single crown, just like the ones that didn't take, but it's done so well, it's multiplied itself along with the runners, and it's giving me strawberries, which the yellow jackets are tearing up. But I'm not only just doing on the inside, I am doing the easier version of propagation. So just because I'm doing one on the inside does not mean that that's the only method I'm using, because this works easily. The only downside with it is I can't tell how the roots are doing, and depending on, like this situation here, I'm gonna have to take these out here probably here really soon, dividing them up and spreading them around, that way they're not just too crowded all in this one pocket of the GreenStalk. But other than that, they're doing just wonderfully. So now that we're officially in fall, I think personally, if you're going to be doing anything like dividing up your strawberry crowns because they're just taking up too much room, or you're trying to pull out your older plants, that way the younger plants can take over and give you bigger harvests come next year, now is probably the best time to do it before these plants completely go to sleep. That way they still have some of the warmer time to get reaccustomed to the roots being disturbed and being broken up and divided, and you're able to ensure that you are already set so that you're not having to worry about it come the beginning of spring when these plants are starting to wake up, and you want them to wake up as fast as possible. That way they're giving you fruits as soon as possible. The one other plus about doing it the way I do it inside is I can put these plants wherever I want to, and they're already off to a great start, and there's no damaged roots, and it's just, for me personally, the effort is worth the payoff eventually. So that's just me. Like I said, now is the time, I feel. I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time that everybody, that a lot of people would say, but I think now is a good time. If you need to divide up your plants, just do it now. It's still warm, so the roots and the plants will be able to benefit and bed back in, and then you don't have to worry about doing it in the spring. It's already done, and you'll know whether or not you need more plants, because you've got just plants that are just too old, or just be like me and not have to worry about a single thing because you've got more plants than you need. For me, it's a win-win. I get a little bit of effort, I get to do a little learning, and I get more free plants. So with that, I'm your boy, Big Wheel Dog 82, in the soil, and I'm out of here, guys. See you later. Man, I am so ready for these stupid bugs to stop scaring the crap out of me every time I turn around. Oh, look here. We got us a strawberry in here if I could not get stuck. Oh, crap. What are you? We're going to cut that out.